Students, in my video lectures, I'm discussing with you Shaw's play Pygmalion. This is the fourth video lecture which is for you. Now, in previous lecture, that is in lecture 3, I discussed the myth of Pygmalion. I gave you the reference of Ovid's Metamorphosis and some other examples. Now, coming to the important characters of the play Pygmalion, we have the first and the most important character, the character of Professor Higgins. Now, Professor Higgins is a 40-year-old bachelor who specializes in phonetics. He's a linguist basically, and who is an acclaimed authority on the subject of dialects, accents, and phonetics. Now, he's a linguistics expert who makes a bet that he can teach Eliza to speak standard English so that she passes for an upper-class woman. He treats Eliza with little respect and ignores her efforts. So this is actually the role in the character of Professor Henry Higgins. Coming to next important character, the character of Eliza Doolittle. She's an uneducated, uncouth, and the word which is used in the play is gutter snipe. Gutter snipe. The flower girl whom Higgins decides to mold into a duchess. She's probably 20 years younger than Higgins. She speaks a dialect which is known as Cockney dialect. Now, those who are the students of linguistics, they'll be familiar with the term dialect, that what is dialect. So before I come to next character, I would like to explain the term dialect. The dialect is actually the language used by the people of a specific area, class, district, or any other group of people. We have, for example, when we talk, say Hindi, the dialects of Hindi, we always say Braj Bhasha, Khadi Boli, Avadhi, etc. Now, this Cockney dialect, whose reference is given here, that Eliza Doolittle was actually speaking Cockney dialect. Cockney dialect is actually the dialect of English language, traditionally spoken by working class Londoners. So Eliza Doolittle, uneducated, uncouth, and she was speaking this dialect, that is Cockney dialect, a dialect which was specific with working class Londoners. As I told you that the word gutter snipe was used for the character of Eliza Doolittle. Gutter snipe, that is a homeless vagabond. If you see the meaning of the word, you will find it. So we have the character of Professor Higgins, the character of Eliza Doolittle. Now, coming to the character of Colonel Pickering. Now, when I discuss with you the basic plot, the development of the plot of the play, then you will come to know that Colonel Pickering, he becomes friends with Higgins and makes the bet with him regarding Eliza. What was the bet? That I'll tell you later in the development of the plot. He treats everyone, including Eliza, with respect. This was his actually personality. So we have the character of Professor Higgins with the character of Eliza Doolittle, and we have the character of Colonel Pickering. Now coming to next character, Alfred Doolittle. Now Alfred Doolittle is Eliza's father. Now next character which we have is Mrs. Higgins. Now Mrs. Higgins is Professor Higgins' mother, who thoroughly loves her. She loves her son very much, but also thoroughly disapproves uh, of his manners, his language, and his social behavior. Coming to next character, that is character of Mrs. Ainsford Hill. Uh, she is a lady of the upper middle class. And the next character is Clara Ainsford Hill, her daughter, playing minor roles. Then we have Freddie Ainsford Hill, her son. Now, a character we have here in the play, that is the character of Mrs. Pierce. Mrs. Pierce, Professor Higgins's housekeeper, she is the one who first sees the difficulty of what is to happen to Eliza after Higgins and Pickering have finished their experiment with her. So overall, we have three important characters: the character of Professor Higgins, the character of Eliza Doolittle, and the character of Colonel Pickering. Now, this play has 5 acts, and look at the way the plot develops, the story moves. We have Act 1. The setting is in Covent Garden, London. It's a rainy evening. Professor Higgins, appearance of Professor Higgins, as I have told you, is a professor of phonetics. He is taking notes about the dialect spoken in that area, and tries to guess where everyone is based on their manner of speech. Now here he meets a poor flower girl, Eliza Doolittle. Higgins bets his friend Pickering that he could teach the girl to speak so well in just 3 months that she could pass for a noble lady. Now this is actually in Act 1. The setting is in Covent Garden, London. Professor Higgins. Then we have the character of Eliza Doolittle. Then we have the bet between Professor Higgins and Colonel Pickering. The bet was that Professor Higgins said that I can transform the personality of Eliza Doolittle from the flower girl into a noble lady, regal lady. Now, Act 2, the setting is in Higgins's laboratory. Pickering steps in and bets Higgins that he can not teach Eliza to speak so well that she passes as a wealthy lady at an ambassador's garden party in 6 months. This was actually, Pickering said, no, it's not possible. You cannot transform her personality. He offers to pay for her lessons home. Higgins likes the idea and tells his housekeeper, Mrs. Pierce, to wash Eliza and dress her in her new clothes. He will teach her to speak standard English so that no one will be able to tell her from member of the upper class. So, bet final between Professor Higgins and Pickering. Now, in Act 3, a few months later at Higgins's mother's house, Eliza is ready for her first appearance in society. Invitation for a tea. People do not recognize her as the flower girl. Everybody starts making small talk about the weather, and Eliza makes her clumsy comments. Higgins's mother cautions her son about treating Eliza like a live doll. But Pickering assures her that they take Eliza seriously. Higgins refers to Eliza as merely an experiment. Mrs. Higgins worries about what will happen to Eliza when the experiment is over. Now coming to Act 4, several months later, Higgins has won his bet. He has taken Eliza to an embassy ball in London where she mixed herself with the upper classes, and everybody thought she was a foreign princess. The moment of Higgins's triumph is also the moment of Eliza's self-awareness. Now, we have the tinge of feminism here. She realizes that Higgins is only interested in his own success and has no consideration for her as a human being. she leaves his house. Now, what happens in Act 5? Next day, the setting is of the next day. Mrs. Higgins' house. Mrs. Higgins scolds Higgins and Pickering for how they have treated Eliza and reveals that Eliza is there. Pickering is nice to Eliza, but Higgins is angry and rude to her, ordering her to come back to his house. Eliza thanks Pickering for teaching her good manners, but she says to Higgins that she is a slave, despite her expensive clothes. She then says that if she cannot have kindness from him, she will have independence. She will lead an independent life. She tells Higgins that she will become a teacher of phonetics, stealing everything she has learned from him in order to take his clients. Higgins is suddenly impressed by Eliza's strength and confidence. Eliza shows she has a will of her own. So this is actually the play, and in the play we have the open ending. Now, if we look at the myth and the play, now I have already discussed with you the myth, told you about Pygmalion myth as we find in Ovid's Metamorphosis, and the way it has been taken by G.B. Shaw in his play Pygmalion. Now, in the myth, we find that Pygmalion is a sculptor. I mean, he makes statues. Here in the play, Professor Higgins is a professor of linguistics. He is a scholar, so just like sculptor. Here in the myth, Pygmalion shuns women, hates women, dislikes women, and here in the play, Professor Higgins is a confirmed bachelor. Now, again, in the myth, we find that Pygmalion makes a statue of a beautiful woman. What happens in the play? Professor Higgins trains Eliza to talk, just like shaping the statue. Now, what happens in the myth? Pygmalion falls in love with creation. What happens in the play? Higgins admires his creation, considering it his masterpiece. Then, what happens in the myth? The statue comes to life. What happens in the play? Eliza becomes a real lady. She becomes independent of her teacher. So this was in brief the development of the plot, the development story of the play Pygmalion. I hope you like it, and in my next video lecture I'll discuss some important themes which are discussed by the dramatist in this play Pygmalion.